Well, the Nebraska football team continued their preparations for Oregon here on Tuesday. Hi, Sean Callahan for HuskerOnline.com, and we talked with offensive coordinator Danny Langsdorf and several different players and coaches here today just to kind of get some thoughts first on last week's game. And let's start with Langsdorf kind of on some of the areas he wants to see some improvement.
You know, you have a little bit more time to digest it, look at it closely, and there were some good things and some things we got to clean up. You know, I didn't think we handled some of the protection stuff very well. We took too many hits, missed a couple throws, dropped a few balls, had some silly holding penalties. So we had definitely some things to clean up in that game. Always a good teaching tool.
As for this trip out to Oregon, both Langsdorf and guys like offensive line coach Mike Cavanaugh have a lot of history with the Ducks.
Yeah, we've been there. We've been there a lot of times in our history, so it'll be kind of fun. We've got definitely we're familiar with the surroundings, with the hotel that we'll stay at. You know, we've stayed there every time. You know, it won't be like sometimes you're going to a new place, you have no idea where you are. There'll be a lot of familiar sights and faces, and so it's kind of fun. But you know, it's one of those deals where it's a tough place to play, and they're a good team, and it'll be a good challenge for us. It'll be another exciting you know, road team, and we've got plenty of those in our own conference. So you know, going out there will be fun.
Obviously, really excited to go back there and play, and you know, represent Nebraska. We're excited about it. Can't wait for it. So going to be a great atmosphere. Obviously, got to be ready to handle everything, noise, and you know, obviously a lot of good athletes. So
you have some family friends that are
my son lives out there. He works out there. He graduated from Oregon State, so he's still out there. We got some friends, but that's where my wife. I like to see my son, but that's, you know, I'm not out there for vacation. So
as you start to look more at this matchup with Oregon on Saturday, one of the key players for Nebraska, Langsdorf said, we slot wide receiver J.D. Spielman.
He's critical. The coverages that they play, they do a nice job of changing things up. They disguise well. They give you a lot of different looks. But that inside receiver is big. A lot of times he's critical in finding the hole in zone, whether it's, like you said, 8 or 3 or you know, I just think, and I think like any receiver, get him into it early and getting in a few touches, and especially a young guy playing on the road for the first time. You know, it's one of those things you want to get him in a groove fast.
He's made a big jump for the simple fact he's a young guy, and he's never played true wideout up until this point. So he's made a big jump just from that standpoint, and he had to make the jump to play.
Right.
You know, so he had to make that jump and show that he's developed into being a wideout, which he has done.
Right.
And so you know, and he studies hard, he works hard, it means something to him. So, you know, I expect him to continue to improve.
Sure.
We also saw Nebraska in a lot of 2 tight end sets. In fact, probably as much as we've seen them in that type of formation in a long time. And it really paved the way for Trey Bryant. And a big part of it was the blocking of guys like senior Connor Ketter.
I mean, were you in 2 tight end almost half the time, if you had to guess? Or
Yeah, pretty close. So, yeah, I love it. As much as we can, we'll go 2 tight end. But we'll switch it up, I'm sure. But whenever we go 2 tight end and run it, pass it, it's all good.
I tell you, they've done a great job. You know, they blocked tremendous on Saturday night. You know, Tavita does a great job coaching those guys. It's another group that's, you know, they say tight family, and they're a tight group of guys, and they're playing hard for each other and for us, and it's a great group.
As for the offensive line, Cavanaugh said all of his guys played well for the most part. He said Nick Gates, though, really had a strong game.
Nick rated the highest. I think Gerald was next. You know, they were neck and neck, so they did a pretty good job.
from the bowl game to week 1, I mean, how pleased were you that Nick kind of brought it back?
Well, I knew he'd fight back. You know what I mean? He's a guy he's a competitive guy now. I know he was embarrassed by that. That's in the past. It's gone. So he wants to play good every week.
And finally, this trip to Oregon is a unique one for Nebraska, as no one on this team's obviously played in Eugene, and there's just a lot of excitement for this matchup.
Yeah, it'll be fun. I'm sure we'll get ready to play and we'll be ready to get it going come Saturday. But we'll be confident going up there.
I mean, we just gotta see. I mean, it's, like you said, it's my first road trip. We're just gonna see how it goes, and from there, just how it goes.
In injury news, wide receiver DeMornay Pearsonell and offensive lineman David Neville were held out of practice for precautionary reasons. Safety Joshua Kalu wore a green no-contact jersey. With the Huskers here in Lincoln, I'm Sean Callahan of HuskerOnline.com.